Welcome into Real Talk Today. I'm Michael Liptak here with Sydney McIntyre. We sat down with two advocates from the Pueblo Rape Crisis Services, Kira Svirsky and Nikki Sosa. We sat down with them to talk about sexual awareness. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, and we sat down with them to discuss some of the things that evolve around sexual assault. And here is our conversation with them. Now turning to the statistic side of things, what are some of the statistics, can't speak, about women, for women and for men?
So on the national level, as I said earlier, it's about 1 in 59 men that will experience that. For women, it's 1 in 5. In Colorado, it's 1 in 4 women and 1 in 17 men that will experience attempted or completed rape at some point in their lifetime. And so of those 159 that we saw last year in 2014, I will tell you that 20 were male primary victims.
Wow. So definitely males are the overwhelming perpetrators of sexual violence, and women are overwhelmingly the victims of sexual violence. But again, when we speak specifically about rape, male on female, males are the primary perpetrators. Male on male, males are still the primary perpetrators. But when we look at other acts of sexual violence, such as sexual harassment and stalking, things like that, females on males tend to be a little more balanced in that way. Where females are the primary perpetrators.
Now, going back to the victim side of things, what is one of the biggest challenges or some of the more common challenges victims face when trying to recover from their assault?
So a big piece of that is the emotion that they're dealing with and having to overcome that, working forward. A lot of it is working with the criminal justice system, which so often does not come through for them. And they work so hard, but still, unfortunately, 98% of rapists will not spend a day in jail. So they're working through that in addition to having to overcome a lot of the emotion that they're dealing with. What are some others?
I think that shame and self-blame is huge in terms of questioning, what if I hadn't gone out that night? What if I had dressed down? What if I hadn't been drinking, and so on? Another big thing is triggers and kind of remembering things that happened just by being in the community, whether or not you remained in that place where the assault happened or you've moved. We have clients that have confided in us an assault that happened decades ago, and they're still kind of dealing with it.
Now, what are some of the different things that men have to try to recover from that sometimes women don't?
I think, as Nikki was saying, one of the kind of biggest things is more embarrassment, as well as questioning that sexual orientation. Was it something about them that invited another man to perpetrate on them? Was it something about their character or their personality? Which, I can tell all men out there that that's absolutely not the case. It has nothing to do with their sexual orientation.
Now, what would be your advice to bystanders who think that someone they know and love is being sexually assaulted? Sometimes it's a tough process for them to come out because they don't want that person to be angry with them or just or hate them because they're interfering with they would say their business. What would your advice be to those that are suffering through that?
That's a really great question, and I think the first thing is to recognize that confiding and disclosing an act of sexual violence is extremely personal and extremely difficult, and at the same time being there for that person in terms of validating and believing 100%. Would you have anything to add to that?
I would completely agree. It's that support piece and validating and believing them, being there for them and saying that it's okay and it's not your fault. So when we train our advocates to go out and respond to the hospital directly in meeting with survivors, we don't draw out their story. We don't ask for it. We don't ask them questions about what happened to them. That's completely up to them, very personal, as Kara has said, up to them if they want to share it with us. And if they do, it's then being supportive and understanding and empathetic.
Now turning our attention to the prevention side of things, what are something that people can do to prevent it?
So this sounds really simple, but just not buying into those stereotypes that we talked about, not buying into those myths, and even not tolerating jokes about sexual violence. So if you hear someone, for example, say, well, women cry rape all the time, correcting them and letting them know, well, no, actually the rate of false reporting is about 2%. It's about changing the culture, it's about shifting the norm and making it a crime type that isn't really kind of expected or isn't kind of accepted even.
As well as being an active bystander. So if you are out and about in the community, you're out with your friends, just having a little bit of heightened awareness, and if and when you do see something, stepping up and doing that. So whether that looks like being direct and intervening with what's happening, or delegating to somebody else, or creating a distraction to help get that person who is being kind of put in a really vulnerable situation into a safe environment.
I just want to make you laugh. I just want to see that smile.